So, hello everybody and welcome. Yes, welcome back here at BSN Network. We'll back here at BSN Network. This is the BSN Network podcast here today. It is Wednesday, January 6th. Hope everybody's having a good day so far and a good rest of their day. Yesterday, it is in fact January 6th. We're coming off of another good sports day yesterday. It is January 6th today. Nets coming off of a good win. Knicks play tonight. Kentucky coming off of a very good win. So a successful sports night last night for me as a fan. Saw some of the Heisman, watched the Kentucky game, saw the Nets game, saw it all yesterday, which was really good. Devontae Smith is your 2020-2021 Heisman Trophy winner. He's your 2021 Heisman Trophy winner, as I should say. So he's your 2021 Heisman Trophy winner. The first receiver, I think, since 1991, Desmond Howard, I think, was the last one to do it at that wide receiver position. You usually see a lot of times Heisman winners are quarterbacks, running backs. Defensive backs aren't usually. I mean, there's been a couple. But you usually, or a running back, like I said, running back, quarterbacks are usually the two main. I mean, you saw this year there was 3 quarterbacks this year that were finalists. You had Trask, Lawrence, and Mac Jones. And then last year, obviously, you had Burrow won it. The year before, you had Mayfield, or the year before, you had Kyler Murray win it. The year before that was Baker. To be honest, it's a lot of times it's quarterbacks, which is good to see that a receiver won it. And Devontae Smith, very deserving of it. Had the odds. He was the odd to win it. But he had a very good career. Alabama will probably pursue into the draft, and I'll tell you what, for the Jets and to other NFL teams out there, I mean, he's definitely a top guy out there that you would definitely want to be looking at. If you're a GM, owner, scout, whatever the case may be, you really want to be honing in on that guy. He's a very good receiver, and definitely I think will probably go top 10, maybe even top 5 in the NFL draft. So it's going to be exciting to see how that all unfolds. Obviously, a good Nets win yesterday. Dominated from the start. Dominated, won by 34 points, 130-96. Dominated from the start, and we really never took our foot off the gas. Definitely a very weird lineup yesterday, a starting lineup that we usually don't use. Even Steve Nash said he made it on the fly, and obviously worked Taurean Prince, Bruce Brown, Jeff Green, Kyrie Irving, Jared Allen. Jared Allen, 19 points, 18 rebounds. I said yesterday our rebounding's got to be better, and we've got to play better defense. The Nets did exactly that yesterday, and that was the result of the win. They have a day off today before playing into a back-to-back on Thursday and Friday. And then the Knicks play today as well. No Kentucky, but some other good college basketball games. So these are the topics for today's games. We got the best free agents available in the NFL. I'm going to do a little bit of it. I'm going to break down positions. I'm going to break down quarterbacks, running backs, receivers, and tight ends. I really want to hone in on those positions. I was thinking about maybe just doing offensive, and then maybe even tomorrow do like defensive side of the ball. But then you also got to realize the offensive line. So maybe today I did the skill positions. Tomorrow maybe I'll do offense, like line, on defensive and offensive line. And then maybe on Tuesday, because Friday, then you have all the football. Friday, Monday, we'll be talking about all the football games. Maybe on Tuesday, then I'll do just the rest, linebackers, safeties, and corners. Something like that. Or maybe I could always just tomorrow just add in offensive linemen and then just do the defense as well. But that could also possibly be the option. But yeah, so definitely I want to kind of break it down. NFL free agents, give you the top free agents out there, kind of give you who I think could be some targets not only for the Jets but for the rest of the NFL. So we'll take a quick look at that. Then we got the top five pitching rotations. I really want to hone in on this for baseball. Obviously, with these days with no real, football or stuff on, I've been able to really talk about some different topics. So I kind of really want to hone in with some of the acquisitions that have happened this year, this offseason. Obviously, Yu Darvish and Blake Snell to the Padres and all that stuff. That's been a real headline. I kind of want to break down the top 5 pitching rotations. So your top 5 starting pitchers, give you them top 5 teams with the top 5 best rotations. I'm just going to make a spoiler alert that, I mean, I'm sure none of you saw it coming, but the Mets or the Yankees do not crack my top 5. I know, really shocker. Especially the Yankees, that's going to happen. The Yankees are not going to crack my top 5. The Mets maybe crack top 10 because DeGrom and if you get Stroman and Syndergaard healthy. But the Yankees outside of Cole, without Severino, Montgomery's okay, but even him at times, he might be able to only work through the 5th inning. So, kind of just that. But I have some other 5 teams that I wanted to give you, tell you why I put them where I put them. Then we got college basketball, NBA, Nets, Knicks, and Kentucky to cap it all off. Only 8 days away from the start of the Rangers season, and we are now officially 1 week away from the start of the 2021 NHL season, so it's going to be exciting. Opening night is on Wednesday. The rest of the NHL plays on Thursday, so a week tomorrow will be the Rangers game, and in a week today will be the first NHL games. So 8 days until the Rangers play, 7 days until some other NHL teams play. So NHL is right around the corner, and I'll be covering it all. Obviously, got my power rankings. We'll give you kind of a season preview. Really excited. A lot of young talent the Rangers got this season, not only in the draft but in free agency. So I'm really excited to see what this Rangers team does. Excited for the future of this team. We're building it the right way, and I would imagine in a couple years we're going to be a true force in that in the Metropolitan Division. Obviously this year it's the East Division. Assuming 2-3 years from now it's back to normal, we should be pretty good. We might be able to stand up there with the Capitals, Islanders, some of these really good veteranized teams that might be looking to rebuild soon. We might be able to take over that part of the NHL. So with all that being said, even this season too, I'm really looking forward to it. I mean, I don't know about playoffs this season, but even if we're just competitive this season, obviously I want us to win a Stanley Cup. Obviously, that's the goal of the players too. The goal of the players is to win every game and try to win a Stanley Cup. But my expectations to win a Stanley Cup are so low. So I'm not expecting to win a Stanley Cup, but that's obviously the ultimate goal as a fan. Making the playoffs, I think, would be an excellent step in the right direction. I think next season, without a doubt, we could probably be a contender. This year is probably another, iffy year, and then I think next season, if we add even more young talent, we especially got one of the best farm systems in all the NHL. I really believe we could probably be on our way to being another competitive hockey team again. So with all that being said, this is the BSN podcast, and let's get into it. So obviously the NFL free agency 2021, previewing this year's class. The NFL obviously is in the playoffs, but I'm going to do some offseason stuff a little bit here, kind of starting it off. I'm still going to talk about obviously the playoffs and stuff. I'm not just going to, blow off the playoffs and talk about all the offseason stuff. But now that the Jets season's over, Giants season's over, I'm going to take a little bit of a quick peek ahead to this upcoming free agency class. If you see within the next couple of weeks, I'm talking a lot about offseason stuff. Don't be surprised by it. I'm very excited for this week's wild card round. I'm very excited for obviously what to come, whatever the Super Bowl matchup is. I'm really excited to do that, and I'll be covering all of that on the podcast here. And believe me, Super Bowl week, I have already something planned where I'll be previewing literally every day. I'll be previewing something about each team. One day I'll do that team's offense, the next team I'll do that team's offense, and then on Wednesday I'll do the other team's defense, Thursday other team's defense, and then Friday will be my game pick. So that's probably what I'll do for Super Bowl week. That's the plan for Super Bowl week. And obviously I have my bracket. I'll be filling out my playoff bracket on Friday, where I do my game picks. I'll do my first round of game picks, and then I'll fill out my bracket, and then obviously all that good stuff. So but I'm gonna take a quick peek ahead to the NFL free agency. Obviously, with over majority half the league now in off-season mode, and 6 teams looking for head coaches. One of those teams being my favorite team, the New York Jets, and a lot of these teams having a lot of cap space. One of those teams being my favorite New York Jets, having the second most cap space in the NFL. Giants are 18th, I think, in the NFL in cap space. Jaguars are number 1. And, I know the Saints are last. They are actually under the cap. They have negative something in cap space. So, if anything, they're going to have to lose cap. So, they're not going to make any big offseason acquisitions. But this year's free agency class before I name off some players, and what I did was I ranked three of the best players I think available at each position. Now, don't get me wrong, there might be 10 players at each position that are very solid, but I took the top 3 and really honed in on them. I'm going to really talk about them. So I did quarterback, running back, wide receiver, and tight end. Quarterback was I think quarterback's probably one of the weaker ones. Outside of Prescott, there's not too many real big known quarterbacks out there that, a team would really look at to give him a max extension or a max contract. Outside of maybe Prescott, he's going to be a hot name this offseason. There was really no hot names. It wasn't like last season, obviously Brady being, Brady or something, obviously that kind of stuff. So, there wasn't really any of that. Obviously with Brady signing with the Buccaneers, there's not that big of a name quarterback. There's obviously not, but there's still some big names. You got Dak on that list, Fitzpatrick. You could look at Trubisky. You could look at, even like a guy like, you could look at Trubisky. You could look at Prescott. You could even look at a guy like even a Winston. He's not very good, but he's on that list. Phillip Rivers is on the list, although that's kind of career pending, depending on what happens with him and his career. He could possibly retire. So I'll tell you what, this season there's a pretty stacked class for free agents, I would say. For the most part, there's a couple areas I definitely think that probably could, like the quarterback, it's not the strongest quarterback class ever. Outside of Prescott, it's a bunch of really average quarterbacks in my opinion, and one of those and a couple of those quarterbacks are veteran quarterbacks, like a guy like a Taylor, a guy like a Fitzpatrick, a guy like a Dalton, a guy like a Rivers. Those are guys that you could very well see. Maybe not Tyrod Taylor. He's a veteran, but I would really hone in on guys like a Fitzpatrick, Rivers, and Dalton. Those are guys you could see retire probably in the next 3 years. Rivers, he might retire after their game on Saturday. You could possibly see that. He only signed a 1-year contract with the Colts, and he's even said that he's shown his love for coaching. He said that that's probably the next thing in his career he wants to do is coach. Obviously, if you don't know that about Phillip Rivers, he's actually planning on being his high school coach for his son's high school football team. So he's going to be the head coach of that team. So, to kind of do that, that's his plan for next season. So, to be honest, if you think about it, being an NFL player and then trying to do that as well is going to be difficult. He's going to have to choose one or the other. So, I could see him definitely taking that path. So what I realize is a lot of these guys in this upcoming class, outside of Prescott and Trubisky and Winston, there are a lot of older players. There's a lot of veterans. Winston, you could say, is a veteran. He's been in the league for 5-6 years now. But like a Rivers, a Dalton, a Fitzpatrick. So I don't know if you'll see too many guys going out on the market to getting quarterbacks. Outside, I know Prescott. A lot of these teams with quarterback vacancies, you can almost guarantee they're going to at least look at Prescott. They might not come in contact with him. They're going to at least be like, okay, like for example, the Jets. I'm sure Douglas is going to be like, okay, guys, Prescott's out there. He's out there. Just know that. It's not meaning we have to go get him, but he's out there. So I really think Prescott's probably going to be one of the hottest names for the quarterback position. So that's kind of it. So I'm just going to read this quick little couple paragraphs here, and then we'll get into the best free agents for the NFL season. The 2020 NFL regular season has ended, and while 14 teams still hope to lift the Lombardi Trophy, many franchises in their respective fan bases have turned their attention to the 2021 offseason. That would be me. I'm obviously a Jets fan. I have completely, I'm still very ready for the playoffs. I'm still excited, but I'm very ready to find out who the coach is for the Jets, what guys we take in the draft, what our offseason free agency looks like. So that's why I'll be looking a little bit ahead here. The 2021 edition of the free agency is going to be an intriguing affair, as several teams could be in tight cap situations. It does not seem that the salary cap will fall to $175 million floor set by the NFL and NFLPA, according to NFL Network's Tom Pelissero and Ian Rappaport. However, it's likely to drop for the first time in recent memory. Still, we're bound to see a flurry of activity when the free agent markets open March 17th. That's the nature of the NFL offseason, and with many high-profile players expected to be available, that isn't going to change this year. Here you'll find an initial position-by-position rundown, top names slated, all that good stuff. So that's what I'm going to do here. So, just saying, this is a list that I created, okay? Obviously, I had to look, I obviously had to see the free agents first, but this is a list that I created. I obviously had to look at the free agents first. I couldn't just think of all the free agents off the top of my head. I couldn't think of all 15 of the players I put down, or not all 15, 12. All 12 of the players I put down on this list, I couldn't think of all of them off the top of my head. I knew there was a lot of them, and I knew Aaron Jones was a free agent. I knew Prescott was a free agent. I knew Al Robinson and Golladay was a free agent. Trubisky, I knew that. Fitzpatrick, I actually didn't. I learned that today. I knew that his contract was coming up because there's been flurries of talk around, are they going to keep him or not? But I never really, I was expecting maybe that's like an opt-out or something. But then obviously I knew all three of the tight ends I actually did know were going to be free agents. And obviously Dak Prescott, like I said, he's really, everyone pretty much knows that Dak Prescott's going to be a free agent. He's been really, ever since he got injured, there's been so much talk on, are they going to keep Dak Prescott or aren't they? That's probably one of the biggest questions all off season for every NFL team. In the entire NFL, probably one of the biggest questions is going to be, are the Cowboys going to keep Prescott? That's going to be it, because if they're not going to keep Prescott, then what are they going to do next? Andy Dalton cannot be your quarterback. So here we go. Starting it off with the quarterback, then go to running back, receiver, and then we'll finish off with tight end. Here we go. Quarterback, number 1, free agent, Dak Prescott, Dallas Cowboys. Okay, I have Prescott here, and I have him at number 1 because I truly do think he's the best. He's the best quarterback on the market right now. I really do think that. I think he is by far one of the better quarterbacks on the market. He is definitely, I definitely think the Cowboys should re-sign him. I mean, if they were smart, they would do that, but you never know. And even when it comes down to just, I've seen this guy run, I've seen him use his legs, I've seen him throw, he could do everything. And you build around him like they've done with CeeDee Lamb, Gallup, Amari Cooper. And you can almost see here, too, with the Cowboys. And I think the Cowboys and Jerry Jones have got to realize this, right? You could see how much of an impact Prescott makes on this team. First off, they were playing insane with Prescott. Once he left, they started to really struggle without him. And I want to say something else. These receivers on the Cowboys thrived when Prescott was there for the first 5 games of the season. CeeDee Lamb, Gallup, and Cooper, they all looked amazing. They were all candidates for high rewards. I mean, you saw CeeDee Lamb, Rookie of the Year. Amari Cooper, could this guy lead the league in receiving? Like, everyone was talking about this receiving core being so great. Once Prescott left, or not left, got injured, I shouldn't say left, but once he got injured, obviously, the entire Cowboys team almost just went downhill. CeeDee Lamb, Cooper, and Gallup were not getting in nearly as many targets or catches. And that could part of, and don't get me wrong, I'm not going to say this is all because of Dak, but that could part of be reason because of the communication and the chemistry, right? It's tough to have your quarterback go down and try, in a season just like this, especially in a season like this where there's not much, you really can't do outside stuff with, just teammates and stuff. Sometimes players will go out and train on their own. You really couldn't do that. So you could see some of it being okay. Well, you got to realize the circumstances, and also a backup quarterback, receivers could struggle. But I think a big reason of it is because Dak is so good, he puts it in great positions for them, and I think that's one of the bigger reasons. So I think the number 1 quarterback out there in free agency is Dak Prescott. And do I want the Cowboys to re-sign him? If the Cowboys don't re-sign him, I would love if the Jets get him. I think that would be an excellent move. He's still very young in his career too. It's not like the Jets are picking up some old player. He's still very young in his career, so it would almost be like it's almost like a Darnold. He's a couple of years older than Darnold, but it's almost like, do you draft the first-year guy, or do you get a guy that's been in the year for a little bit now? I think it could be anything, but I definitely think if the Cowboys, the smart decision would be keep Dak Prescott. So number 1, Dak Prescott. Like I said, the quarterback is not the most stacked free agent available, right? Like I said, the running back and receiver positions are really stacked. Tight ends are 2. You're talking about probably 2 top 5 tight ends. Top 10 tight ends probably, because I don't know if the one guy is really a top 5. But this is without a doubt, I think, the best free agents. This is without a doubt, I think, the second best free agent for quarterback. So number 2, I would put Mitchell Trubisky, the Chicago Bears. I know a lot of people could sit here and be like, what are you doing? Are you crazy? Well, let me tell you. What all the free agents are. It's Dak Prescott, just read about him. Phillip Rivers, Trubisky, Winston, Dalton, Fitzpatrick, Tyrod Taylor. Okay? I would take Trubisky over all of them, and the reason why I would do that, like I said, here's the problem with Phillip Rivers. He might retire, so I can't sit here and say he's going to be on my number 2. He might retire. So if I put him on my number 2 and the guy retires, well, then what? Tyrod Taylor, he's a little more, I don't trust him. Jameis Winston, too many turnovers. Fitzpatrick, good. Trubisky, young, and he's shown flashes. Dalton, just older, right? I find his big group is a lot of veterans. Fitzpatrick, Dalton, Tyrod Taylor. Guys like that, they're veterans. They're guys like Dalton and Fitzpatrick and Rivers could very well retire in 3 years from now. Rivers could literally retire after that game on Saturday. We don't know what's going to happen there. But number 2, I would put Trubisky. I just think Trubisky is I just think when he's on, he's a very good quarterback. And we've seen it happen this year already. We've seen Trubisky air the ball out. We've seen him throw 4 touchdowns in a game. We've seen him throw 350, 400 yards in a game. We've seen that out of Trubisky. We've seen him throw the ball deep. We've seen that out of Trubisky. And what I will say is this, and I think this is another reason why he's pretty hot thingy, is because he's young. He's young. He's still young. And even if he's not the greatest quarterback out there, and I've always made fun, I still don't think he's that great of a quarterback. When he's on, he's very good, though. He shows flashes. It's the question is can he make those flashes consistent? You know, I don't want to see one game you're playing insane, the next game you throw 3 interceptions. We've seen too much out of Trubisky. So number 2, I'd put Trubisky, strictly because of his age. Number 3, Ryan Fitzpatrick, Miami Dolphins. Okay, this could be very well controversial because I know, here's my problem with Ryan Fitzpatrick, okay? This is a guy who is very good when it comes down to coming in as a backup. And the numbers show this, and I'm not lying when I say this. I'm really not. I've seen it firsthand. I'm a Jets fan. Fitzpatrick was on the Jets. We brought him here. He had a great year, 10-6. We missed the playoffs, but that's because, you know, we had the Steelers in front of us who had 11-5. I feel like the Dolphins, we went 10-6, still had a great season. This was Bowles' first year back in 2015. That was the year the Broncos won it all. We went 10-6. We looked like everything but like a playoff team, right? We had a great shot at winning it all. Or not winning it all. We had a great shot at beating the Bills week 17 to get into the playoffs. Obviously, that wasn't the case. We did not win that game. But what I will tell you is this. Fitzpatrick had an excellent year that year. It was really one of the better quarterbacks in the league that year. And then we gave him the extension. And the next year he went 5-11. The year after that, he played a little bit. Then we had to put in our backup. Then Bowles got fired. One thing led to another. Gage, Darnold. Now we're sitting here. So I will tell you this. I've seen it happen. I've seen it even happen with the Buccaneers. When he comes in as a backup quarterback, he is probably one of the best backups quarterbacks in the league. He is insane at backing up. When he comes in as a backup quarterback, he plays really well. When you give him the big contract, when you give him the money, he does not play well. Why? I have absolutely no clue. It could be the pressure. It just could be because, you know, all the media gets to him. I don't know what it is. But the numbers show when he comes in as a backup or comes in as a guy with no expectations, he's unreal. When you give him the money, when you give him the extension, he stinks. So I'll tell you this. That's why I put him here, because I think this is a little bit of a risky decision to sign him and give him a lot of money. Sure, put him as a backup, sure. But as a starter, if a team that needs a quarterback would to go out there and try to get him, that I think is a little risky. So number 3, Ryan Fitzpatrick. So to my top 3 quarterbacks is Dak Prescott, Mitchell Trubisky, and Ryan Fitzpatrick. All the available. These are all the top free agent quarterbacks. Prescott, Rivers, Trubisky, Winston, Dalton, Fitzpatrick, and Taylor. So those are the 7 of them. Next up, there are 5 running backs. I only narrowed it down to 3, although all 3 of the running backs are very good. But here we go. Running backs now. This is probably one of the more stacked running back classes, I would say. Free agent classes, I would definitely say. But here we go. Running backs now. For free agents. So number 1, I have Aaron Jones, Green Bay Packers. Okay, I think this is obvious. I think this is really, really, really obvious. I don't see why someone would put Aaron Jones behind like a Kenyon Drake or a Lindsey or a Carson or even, a Jamal Williams. Williams shows flashes, but nothing like Aaron Jones. Okay, Aaron Jones, one thing about him, he's a big yards and touchdown guy. That's literally all you could ask for out of running back. Yards, if you met with a general manager right now and you two sat across the table from each other and the general manager said, can you do one job? Yards and touchdown, and if you shook your head yes, you would be getting paid money. That's what he can do. He can give you yards, and he can give you touchdowns. He gets in the end zone very efficiently. He gets in the end zone as much as sometimes any other running back in the league, more than sometimes any other running back in the league. He broke records last season with his touchdowns. Touchdown. He can do both. You need him on the 1-yard line to just dive right in. He can do that. You need him to get him a 15-yard run. He can do that. He is one of the more pure and consistent running backs in the NFL. Aaron Jones at number 1. I would love for the Jets to target this guy. He's going to be asking for a lot of money. If you're the Jets, you're probably going to have to take either him or a receiver. It's probably going to be one or the other. because I just don't know if you'll be able to handle two contracts, like a Robinson contract and a Jones contract, because especially with their two really good seasons this year, he's going to be asking for a lot of money. I don't know if the Packers are going to be able to pay it. It also all depends on what Rodgers does. So I'll tell you what, I think Aaron Jones is definitely the best available running back on the free agent market. Number 1, Aaron Jones, Green Bay Packers. Number 2 and 3 could go either way. Chris Carson, Seattle Seahawks, I have a number 2. 3 is Kenyon Drake, Arizona Cardinals. This could go either way, and I'll tell you why. First off, I think Chris Carson, if you had to choose between the two, I think overall might be the better running back. But here's the problem, right? Carson gets injured. He's very injury prone. He's had a lot of injuries in the past couple years here. This season, I said it almost every week in fantasy. Carson almost every week in fantasy would be questionable with some sort of foot injury. He's missed a couple weeks this year already with a foot injury. He missed a couple weeks last year with a foot injury. And even this week, I was just looking on the fantasy. Sometimes I just look on fantasy just, because it's kind of funny now. With fantasy, it says off season, so you still have your team, but, it's not like you could play. It's not like, it doesn't matter if anyone's playing. You're in the off season now. But I was just looking through fantasy, and it showed you, the guys that, I was looking at fantasy, and it showed you the players, that were questionable and stuff, and Chris Carson, again, this week was one of them. He was questionable with a foot injury, so I'll tell you what, if you're going off of the safe route, probably Kenyon Drake. If you're going off of the more talented, still very young route, you probably would go with a guy like a Chris Carson. He's still pretty young, and he's Chris Carson can do both. He can receive and catch. One thing I think is really underrated about I jumped ahead. I said Chris running. I jumped ahead. My next thing was going to be running. But Chris Carson, his running ability, especially in close down and distances, is really good. I think he's really underrated in his power running. I would definitely say Carson. The guy is very strong. He's got a very strong lower half, a very strong upper body. He's a very strong guy. And I think, I think one of the things that's really underrated about him is his power running. He's in a way, he's not a power back, because he's not like an AJ Dillon or anything like that. A guy like that's gonna, like a guy that's gonna, he's not like a Lynch, I should say, because a Lynch is like a power running back. He's a guy that's gonna strip tackles, a guy that's gonna lower his shoulder and just pound right through wherever he's going through. I feel like Chris Carson, that's one thing that's very underrated about him. I feel like a lot of people always talk about his catching and his speed ability, but I really think his power running and like a 3rd down and 2, even like a 4th down and 1, or anything, or on the goal line, when they're running that, like when they're running full on, load in the box, he's a guy with lower shoulder and just pound its way through. I feel like that's one very underrated part of his game. Kenyon Drake, if we're going off about it, is a guy that bursts out for a lot of big runs. It's just consistency. He has a lot of big runs. Sometimes, he'll go from a 15-yard run to like a 1-yard run, though. It's just at times I feel like Kenyon Drake struggled a little bit this year with consistency. There would be games where he would rush for 110 yards, and there would also be games where he rushes for 50 yards. And he'll get around the same amount of carries. It's really consistency with Kenyon Drake that I think is the concern. So, both these players, they have a little bit of concerns here. It's Carson is, can you stay healthy? Can you really stay healthy? Every week, it's something. Every week he's got a foot issue. And Kenyon Drake is a little bit of consistency. Number 2 and 3 with Chris Carson and Kenyon Drake. I think they're phenomenal guys. I think for whoever team picks them up. It depends on the situation. If you pick up Kenyon Drake and you're like a team like the Giants, you don't need him, that would be probably not a great pickup, because what are you going to do with Kenyon Drake? That's a big contract for a guy that's probably going to sit the bench. So it really depends. But a team that's going to need a running back, this would be the right decision. So Aaron Jones, Chris Carson, and Kenyon Drake are my top 3 running backs available. So now we're down to the final 2 positions, wide receiver and tight end. Then we'll move on to top 5 pitching rotations. So here we go. Oh, by the way, quickly. Running back is stacked. Here are all of them: Aaron Jones, Kenyon Drake, Chris Carson, and the other 2 are Phillip Lindsay and Jamal Williams. If you don't know, I'm very high on Phillip Lindsay. I think he's going to be a stellar running back in this league. He's shown so much potential before. I think it's actually very good that he's going to be out. I think he should head out of Denver. I think because I just think with him, he's got such good speed, but it all depends on what's going to happen with Melvin Gordon. It really is. And the Broncos are going to have to make that decision this season, obviously. Now we move on to wide receivers. So we got wide receiver. These are the 5 wide receivers: Allen Robinson, Chris Godwin, Kenny Golladay, Juju, and Will Fuller. Obviously, Fuller had some off-the-field issues. He got suspended, so that's why if you haven't seen him playing a lot, it's because of that, which had some reasoning to me. If you can't keep the off-the-field issues, intact, if you can't keep your off-the-field attitude intact, then that could be a problem to coaches and GMs. So now let's get into wide receivers. So my best wide receiver on the market right now, I think, is Allen Robinson of the Chicago Bears. Okay, I had him on my fantasy team. I've said this so much. Allen Robinson in a way is like a Carson. I find him a lot of times having injuries. Not big ones, not like ones that are going to hold you out of games. I mean, he has been out a couple games, but I find him almost every week. Being at least questionable a little bit. When it comes down to that stuff, I could be, questionable during a week or questionable during, practice or something. I feel like Allen Robinson in a way is that. So I really think one of the things that GMs are going to want to look at is, can you stay healthy? That's, I think, one of his flaws is, can you stay healthy? That's a big thing. But the guy, his route running, his pass catching, his deep ball ability, his speed, his all around awareness for the game is unbelievable. I think he's got he's one of the more talented, receivers in all the league. I think, without a doubt. He's very underrated too. I feel like, at times, when you hear about these receivers, you think, oh, Tyreek Hill, Thomas, Hopkins, guys like that, these big name guys, Adams, and not a lot of people always think of, Evans, or not a lot of always people think of Robinson being that one of those core guys. And this is a guy, especially like a team like the Jets, could so use him. A core number one receiver. He is a true number one receiver. He's a guy that could be truly a number one receiver. And like I said just a little bit ago, his route running, his pass catching, his deep ball ability. His deep ball ability is insanely underrated. The amount of times a quarterback, and you got to realize too, Allen Robinson's putting up these numbers beginning of the year, Mitchell Trubisky, then Nick Foles, then back to Mitchell Trubisky. This is a guy that's having so many quarterback changes around him and moving parts, and this is a guy that can still be a solid receiver. That goes to show you how good of a receiver he can be. When you have moving parts around you, sometimes it can be tough for a receiver. When you have two different quarterbacks, one week it's Trubisky, the other week it's Foles, sometimes it's tough to get onto the same page. But I'll tell you what, he has done excellent with that. He's been amazing. So definitely, Allen Robinson. Another thing too is the Bears don't have anyone else to really worry about. So a lot of times teams are really targeting Robinson to make sure he's guarded, and he still finds a way to get open. So number 1, Allen Robinson. Number 2, I have Chris Godwin, Tampa Bay Buccaneers. This is actually another guy. He's going to be a free agent. I wouldn't imagine for long though. I would imagine that the Bears, with Allen Robinson, going to be interesting. I think the Bears have to choose from either Trubisky or Robinson, one of those guys. But for Godwin, here's my thing with Godwin. With the Buccaneers, I would imagine he's going to be a guy. He's going to be a free agent. He's going to be a free agent. I mean, that's just going to happen. I wouldn't be surprised, though, if this is a guy that's just going to get re-signed right away, especially with the way he's played not only last year but this year. He had a great year last year. He popped out of the middle of nowhere. He was insane, and everyone was questioning, like, how in the world is this guy doing this good? Like, he's one of those things where, like, is this a one-year wonder? And he's proven to us, he had a 3-touchdown game, I think, on Sunday. He's proven to us he is not a one-year wonder. And to a guy, too, like Godwin and the Buccaneers, Evans, who has injury history, obviously, if Evans is out and Godwin's still in, that's still good. So I think Godwin's going to be a good free agent, but I think the Buccaneers take him right back. But Godwin's deep ball ability, his speed is really good, and I really like his cuts. He's very smart. Like he makes the right decisions. There's sometimes where receivers will catch the ball and they'll cut left instead of right, and that's the wrong decision. Because they might see, the safety coming into their left, but, maybe the safety cuts back and, is prepared for anything, trickery, something like that. So that could be anything, but, even sometimes if you see receivers, sometimes they'll catch the ball. Instead of just trying to lower their shoulder into the defender in front of them, the corner safety, whoever that is, if you're a tight end, sometimes linebacker, sometimes they're so focused on just, instead of lowering their shoulder, sometimes they get the ball, run a little backwards or turn around and try to make a cut, and they end up losing yards that way. Godwin, I feel like, doesn't do that. He usually catches the ball, and he's a guy that's going to lower his shoulder and try to get as many yards as he can. He's an extra effort guy. So Godwin, without a doubt, I think is number 2. And number 3, Kenny Golladay. I was very thinking about Kenny Golladay as number 3, and not even cracking my top 3. The thing is just injuries. Injury halted him this season. He's had a little bit of a disappointing year. But injuries. And like I said, this would be another guy, though. If he can stay healthy, he's one of the better receivers in all the NFL. The guys behind him, Juju and Will Fuller. Juju, I don't think is all that great. And, I mean, it wouldn't be a terrible decision for any team to pick up Juju. I think, and Will Fuller off the field issues, just too many of those. But I would say about Kenny Golladay, if he can stay healthy, he's a very good guy. And it's another guy, too. He's not working in the best situation either there. They're in Detroit. So I think it would be a good decision there for any team to probably pick up Golladay. Just got to make sure his injuries are okay. This is a guy that missed the majority of the season. You got to make sure he stays healthy because he's going to want a lot of money. So the remaining free agents are Allen Robinson, Godwin, Golladay, Juju Smith-Schuster, and Fuller. Now I move on to tight ends. This will be the final one of this topic. So now we move it on tight ends. Number 1, I have Hunter Henry of the Chargers. This is another guy, too, I would imagine is going to get re-signed. I would imagine this is a guy that's going to be getting taken back to the Chargers. He had an excellent year this year. Had a couple up and down games, but for the most part stayed consistent. I had him in fantasy for a little bit. For the most part, he stayed consistent, but there was a couple games in there where there was a couple 1 or 2 catch games for maybe only 15 yards. There was a couple of those games. But for the most part, it was pretty consistent. This is a guy that you're going to definitely want to look in the red zone. This is going to be a big red zone guy. He might not be the biggest yards guy ever. He might not be like a Kelsey where he's going to be second in the NFL in receiving yards. Diggs is 1, Kelsey's 2, Hopkins is 3. That's the final one for the regular season. We'll see what the playoffs bring. But he's not going to be a big yards guy like a Wall or like a Kelsey or a Kittle. He's going to be a guy that you're going to rely in the red zone, and it's going to be a guy that's going to get you short down and distance gains, right? If you're in a 3rd down and 5 situation, you're gonna look for him. Maybe a little bit of a comeback, a mesh route, or an out route, or even just a straight up, a middle route or something. A route that no such thing really a middle route, but I kind of messed up there. Meaning like a route across the middle of the field, something like that would work with Hunter Henry. He's not gonna be a guy like a Waller or a Kelsey or a Kittle who's gonna put up these big yards. He's gonna be a guy that's gonna get you red zone touchdowns and get you some good plays. That's number 1. Number 2, I have Jonnu Smith, the Tennessee Titans. I like him. He's actually been involved in a lot of trick plays. So for teams that like to run trickery, like the Tennessee Titans, he's a perfect fit. He's had a very successful year this year. He's had a couple big games. Has had a couple mediocre games. He's another guy too. He's consistent. Hunter Henry, the one thing I would be concerned with him is consistency. Jonnu Smith, not so much. He's pretty consistent, and he'll get some big yard games. But for the most part, Jonnu Smith definitely a good player, and that's part of the reason. He's a big red zone guy too for Jonnu Smith. And number 3, I have Gerald Everett. Just a good player overall with that Rams team. And he's not working with the best quarterback either over there in Goff. Goff has his moments, but Gerald Everett there. And I think for a guy who's splitting time with Higbee with the Rams, definitely proving that he could be a starter. So the final tight ends are Hunter Henry, Gerald Everett, Jonnu Smith, Jared Cook, and Rob Gronkowski. Those are all the free agents. So that's what I got for top available free agents. Like I said, it's going to be very entertaining offseason, I would think, for not just for the Jets, but the entire NFL. There's going to be a lot of, I think, exciting things coming up for the NFL. Obviously, we got the playoffs, and then, for a fan like me, I'm excited to see. I'm really excited with the Jets hire because, like I said, 90% of the stuff that's going to, the Jets aren't going to really do anything until they hire a head coach. That's really going to be the big decision. The coach is going to decide, and Douglas said that yesterday in his interview. The coach is going to decide if Darnold stays. He said that yesterday. It's going to be the big part of it's going to be what the coach does with Darnold. That's what Douglas said yesterday. So if the coach wants Darnold, then he wants to develop him, then they'll keep him. If the coach wants to work with a new quarterback, then they won't keep Darnold. That's going to be the big deal. The coach will depend on what happens with the second pick and what happens with Darnold there. So, anyway, that's what I got for the best free agents. Coming up next, we got the top 5 pitching rotations in the MLB. Coming up next. Alrighty, so obviously it is in fact the MLB offseason. For the most part, I would say that this has been a relatively quiet offseason, I would go ahead and say. A relatively quiet offseason. I mean, you could say that. You could go ahead and say that. You could go ahead and say. What was I going to say? You could obviously go ahead and say that it's been, pretty, a pretty loud off season, but you could also go ahead and say it's been pretty quiet. For the most part, I would imagine it's for the most part, in my opinion, I think many baseball fans' opinions, especially Yankees fans, because the Yankees have really done nothing. I mean, a Padres fan, it's like, oh, we did everything we wanted to do and some. For a Yankees fan, it's been like, okay, we've done nothing. And for a Mets fan, it's like, okay, we've done James McCann, but other than that, for everything that we've said, we've done nothing either. So, for the most part, it's been a relatively quiet offseason. That's what I personally think. Now, you could think differently. If you're a Padres fan, you probably don't even think that. You probably think this has been an amazing offseason. For me, it's been pretty quiet. There's just a whole lot of rumors and not much action. That's really kind of where I'm at right now. But anyway, I thought this would be good. Ranking MLB's top 5 rotations, and this is after Padres add Blake Snell and Yu Darvish. So I picked out 5 teams. This is not in any particular order. I just did 5 best. This is not 5 favorites. This is just how it is. The Yankees don't even crack my top list, so it's not like I put my favorite team in here. This is not my opinion on the top 5 MLB teams. I just want to make that clear. I know a lot of times if you see, one team that's in the top 5, you might disagree, but no, it's not off of the top 5 teams. It's off of what I think the top 5 pitching rotations are. So this is kind of it. So these are the top 5 pitching rotations. I'll give you why I think they are, and kind of just run through them. I've got 5 of them. Actually, 4 of the 5 teams made the playoffs last season. And one of these teams on here won the World Series, shocker, last season and also the year before. So, to kind of spoil that, the Nationals and the Dodgers are on this list. But we'll get into the top 5 here. So, I'll start off with number 5 and I'll head to number 1. Obviously, with some of the moves that have recently happened with the Padres, they definitely make this list quite interesting. So here we go, top 5 pitching rotations. Number 5, I have the Atlanta Braves. Their rotation consists of Max Fried, Charlie Morton, Ian Anderson, Drew Smyly, and Kyle Wright. Now, I want to make this in mind for some of you at home who might be watching and wondering where Mike Soroka is. Mike Soroka is recovering from an Achilles injury and is expected to rejoin the rotation early in the 2021 season. So at this very moment, he is not a part of this rotation. He will probably miss spring training. He will probably come early in the season, May, June-ish. He'll probably be fully on second half of the season. So Mike Soroka would definitely make this list, one of the better pitchers in all the league. But I had to fill out someone else because he's not on this list. So right now it's Max Fried, Charlie Morton, Ian Anderson, Drew Smyly, and Kyle Wright. What I like about this what I like about this team is it's a balance. It's almost a balance of righty lefty. There are 3 righties. That is Charlie Morton, Ian Anderson, and Kyle Wright. And there are 2 lefties. That is Max Fried and Drew Smyly. So I like that, right? I think that adds that adds an advantage, I think, to this team. And the reason that I say that is because, for the teams, every day it's not like, oh, you got a righty going today. Like one of these lineups, as a matter of fact, for example, like Cleveland's, for example, theirs consist of all right-handed pitchers. Not that that's bad, but, sometimes that could be bad because, every day it's a right-handed pitcher. When you switch it up, sometimes, today it's lefty, today it's lefty, then the next day it's a righty, now all of a sudden we got to switch the lineup, switcher's got to hit this way. It could definitely confuse some teams and even at times confuse the coaches. So I think that adds an incredible good balance. I mean, there's obviously 3 writers. There's more righties than lefties, but, there's always going to be an odd number because it's not 3. So you can't there's not 6 spots there. It's not 3 and 3. It's 5. So there's going to be one with more righties. But obviously, there is more righties. And what I like about this lineup is 2-3 years from now, I think this could very well be one of the best pitching rotation in all the MLB. And the reason I say that is you look at these guys. A lot of these guys are young. Ian Anderson, Max Fried, Kyle Wright, Drew Smyly. They're relatively young, especially Max Fried. He's one of the best up and rising, not only pitchers, one of the better up and rising players in general in the MLB coming up. And then you add some of that veteran presence in like a Mike Soroka and in a Charlie Morton, who they got from the Tampa Bay Rays just recently, a little bit ago in the beginning of the offseason, they obviously got Charlie Morton from the Rays. So I feel like what this lineup too is, I feel like in a way this is a lineup like it's some balance. It's very balanced. It's balanced in a very way. It's one of the more, if you're going off of balanced lineups, I think Braves would definitely be on probably number one. If you're going off of balance, because you're balanced pitching, you got two lefties and three righties, so it's a pretty good balance there. Like I said, since it's an odd number of 5, you're always going to have a little bit of an odd ball there. If that third pitcher obviously is going to be either a righty or lefty, which is going to add more, but still 2 lefties to 3 righties is not a bad ratio. So that's balanced, and then also the young part of this lineup. You have the majority, it's young, but there's still that balance in there where Charlie Morton adds that veteran presence and some of the guys in the bullpen. But this is a very young rotation, so that's why I put him at number 5, because there's still going to be a little bit of, growing pains. There's still going to be a little bit of that growing into it. You're still going to be developing. These players are not going to be insane right off the bat. We saw last season, Fried struggled a little early on in the year, but was able to gain some ground. He hit some bumps in the road. It's not going to be perfect, but for the most part, it looked very good. They made the playoffs. They looked good. So the Braves, I would definitely say, pitching rotation, Max Fried, Charlie Morton, Ian Anderson, Drew Smyly, and Kyle Wright would be at number 5. A lot of hard throwers, too. Max Fried's very good in the arm department with the strength of his arm and the throwing ability. So definitely number 5, Atlanta Braves. Definitely uses lower half as well. Number 4, Washington Nationals. This consists of Max Scherzer, Patrick Corbin, Steven Strasburg, Eric Fedde, and Joe Ross. So this is not as balanced. You have 4 right-handers, Max Scherzer, Strasburg, Fedde, and Ross, and your one left-hander is Patrick Corbin. Patrick Corbin really came along in that season where they won the World Series, the 2019 season. Really came along that year where they won the World Series. Had a big playoff performances and a couple really big regular season performances that really helped them on their road to the World Series and ultimately the World Series victory when they took down the Houston Astros. But I look at this thing is they probably have one of the best, if not the best pitcher in baseball, Max Scherzer. Without a doubt, probably top 3. Then they have, I think, one of the most underrated pitchers in baseball in Steven Strasburg. I think he's very well, when he's on, he could very well be top 3 as well. And then you have a guy, Patrick Corbin, who's also one of the more underrated pitchers. When he's on, he could probably be top 10. So you look at this lineup, and you're looking at 3 very possible top 10 pitchers. 2 of them probably top 3, top 5. And then you're looking at Patrick Corbin, who could be, underrated, but when he's on, here's the thing. Patrick Corbin at times, and I'll get into this, Patrick Corbin at times could definitely be, he has moments where he's, shaky. He has moments where, he has innings. One thing with Patrick Corbin, he's not always great where he's not always amazing towards the late games. Sometimes he runs out of gas. He's not like a Scherzer. One thing I would like to say about Scherzer is this is a guy that is, just amazing. This is a guy that goes into the 8 innings almost every single game. It's just fascinating what this guy is doing. He's almost going into the 8th inning every single game, and his strikeout numbers are through the roof. A big strikeout and swing and miss guy. But like I said with Corbin, this is another kind of balance in a way. You have Scherzer and Strasburg who can be long inning guys, and then you have a Corbin who could probably be your 6-7 inning guy. Maybe even 5 at times. He's, later innings sometimes, and that's one thing, younger pitchers and, he's got to build up on. But that's at times, you got to build that up. So I'm sure Patrick Corbin will get better at that. But definitely without doubt, I'm number 4 Washington Nationals. I just think they're a good rotation. You get to the bottom of the rotation with Fedde and Ross, and not the most 2 no-name guys. But what I will like to say about this is this is a rotation that's obviously able to win games because their bullpen is not the best in the league. Their bullpen definitely struggles, has its moments of really struggling. So this rotation has a lot of pressure on it. If this rotation can only go 5 innings, it's more than likely going to be a loss because, and the numbers show that, because this bullpen is a lot of times, the bullpen's not as deep as some of these other bullpens in the league. It's a lot of young players that are still trying to develop. So his bullpen's and there's a lot of moving parts too in their bullpen. You can't get that consistent reliever. 1 year, this guy's here, then he's gone. Let's bring in another guy, then he's gone. It's a lot of 1-year contracts in that bullpen. So this is a rotation, especially a Scherzer, Corbin, and Strasburg being the top 3 guys in this rotation. this is the rotation that really has a lot of pressure on them to pitch well. Because if you don't pitch well, you only pitch 5-6 innings, more than likely the numbers show it's going to be a loss, because a lot of times these bullpen guys can only go, they're just not that good. So without a doubt, I think number 4 is the Washington Nationals. Max Scherzer, Patrick Corbin, Steven Strasburg, Eric Fedde, and Joe Ross. So there are your first 2. Number 3, I have the Cleveland Indians. This one consists of Shane Bieber, Carlos Carrasco, Zach Plesac, Aaron Savage, and Tristan McKenzie. I personally really like this one. The Yankees dominated it in the wild card game. Obviously, the first 2 games there, they really dominated, putting up double-digit runs. Obviously, in both those games, Shane Bieber, obviously, without a doubt, with Cy Young and stuff with that, he was definitely a great pitcher, had an unbelievable season, was just, I was looking at a stat, because this was a stat that actually, and it's crazy I remember this, just goes to show you how much a sports, guy I am. This is a stat I remember. When I was watching the Yankees-Indians game, Shane Bieber, the announcers were talking about his... So junk, a junk pitch or whatever I think it was called, is a pitch that exactly is 18 inches or something, or 18 centimeters below the middle of the plate. So that's considered like a junk pitch. He has the most swing and misses on a junk pitch, which means his off speed, his curveballs, his slider, his dropping pitches, those pitches that are the lower velocity, you could be throwing 97 and mid-80s. The pitchers that are lower velocities means that they have so much drop on them. He leads the league in those type of swing and misses. So that is I think that's a very fascinating stat to me. That could just be because of how I am, but I think that's a very fascinating stat. He's very good when it comes to those kind of things. He drops the ball right where it needs to be. And very consistent, too. He's a guy that's not going to drop the ball one day. He's going to drop it right down the middle. Then the next pitch is going to be, in the dirt. It's the guy that's going to control his pitches. He has one of the better controls in the league. And it goes to show you how many swing and misses he gets on it. Because if you can't control your off speed, it could either A, hit the batter, 2, always be a dirt ball, or 3, it could be hanging and there goes a home run. You're watching it go over the fence and you're watching a lucky fan catch a home run. That's it. You don't want either A, B, or C. D would be probably, I don't know, what would D be? Just not a good pitch, a ball. So he very controls that. And as for Carlos Carrasco, also a very good pitcher. Good speed on his fastball as well, all speed as well. Zach Plesac, same thing, very good pitcher. He really commands the zone, really controls it. That's good there. And, your final 2 aren't going to be the most stellar guys, but also there. One thing that Indians lineup doesn't have is the left-handed pitching. All 5 of these guys are right-handers, so right-handed pitchers. So that's one thing. They don't really have that mix of that kind of stuff. So, so now we move on to number 2. This might surprise many of you just because I talked about it a couple days ago, but number 2, I have the San Diego Padres. This consists of Yu Darvish, Blake Snell, Danielson Lamet, Chris Paddock, and Adrian Morjon. So, first off, I would like to say, this is a lineup that your top 4, you got solid pitchers all around. Darvish, Snell, and Paddock are probably your 4 best. Or not your 4 best, your 3 best. Snell, Darvish, Paddock. And your other 2 guys are, I don't want to call them placement guys, but they're good, but they're nothing on Paddock, Snell, or any of their level. Now let me mind you, they also have Clevenger, but he got Tommy John. So, I don't know if he'll be even back for this season. But you also got to mind you, if they get Clevenger, they're good. Here's why I put them number 2. And I'll tell you why I put number 1 in a little bit. But here's why I put them number 2. I think this is going to be an excellent rotation. I really do. Here's why I put them at number 2. Is because they are, the thing with them is they haven't had a season yet together, right? I haven't seen this yet. I've seen Snell and Darvish pitch very well, but I just haven't seen it yet. I don't know if I could put a rotation that hasn't worked together yet in the number 1 spot. A rotation together that hasn't proven anything yet. They haven't even played a game. So I don't know if I could put them in the number 1 spot yet. I'm putting them number 2 based on what I see from other teams. I see a Cy Young and Snell. I see a very underrated pitcher in Darvish. I've seen great off speed and good velocity on his fastball in Chris Paddock. I've seen that stuff. Together, I don't know. We'll see. Darvish, very good pitcher. He's got some nasty stuff. And I'm not going to shy away from saying that. He's got some nasty stuff. Same thing with Snell. I mean, I see Snell play a ton. I mean, I'm a Yankees fan. AL East. I mean, we play him a ton. That's why I'm happy Morton and Snell are both out of the AL East. I mean, those two guys dominated the Yankees in the playoffs and in the regular season. So I'm happy about that. I'm happy they're gone. But I'll tell you what. I mean, they say this is going to be a scary rotation. I'll tell you that. And this is another rotation, too, that's like the Braves. It's balanced. You got 3 right-handers and 3 lefties. You got Darvish, Danielson, Lamet, and Chris Paddock are right-handers, and your other lefties are Snell and Morjon. And your top 2 pitchers are righty and lefty. It's not like your top 2 are righties and the rest are lefties. So, you got a good balance between your top 2, too. I mean, that could throw off a lineup right there in its own. If you're in a 3-game set, okay, day 1 we're playing Darvish, okay, he's a righty. Oh, day 2 we're playing Snell, oh, great, he's a lefty. Day 3 you got Danielson, Lamet, a righty. Oh my gosh, like we've seen 3 different pitchers. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, that's the thing there. So, definitely good. Darvish, Snell, and Paddock, I think, are probably the best on this rotation, and then definitely very good there. But I just want to see them. I just want to see what they are all together. So, there's number 2, and no surprise here. Obviously, you would assume number 1 would be the Dodgers. But yes, number 1 is the Los Angeles Dodgers. This lineup consists of Clayton Kershaw, Walker Buehler. This lineup consists of Clayton Kershaw, Walker Buehler, Julio Urias, David Price, and Dustin May. Sorry if you saw me duck back there. I don't know, there's like a bug or something. A fly here. But yeah, so obviously Clayton Kershaw, Walker Buehler, Julio Urias, David Price, and Dustin May. That's year 5 there. So that's year 5 there. Here's why I put him number 1. I mean, this lineup obviously worked to get you to a World Series. Win a World Series against a very good lineup in the Tampa Bay Rays. So, this obviously was, I don't know if you could really, that's the one thing. I get it, the Padres are very good. They got a lot of stars on that team, and especially in that rotation, but this is a rotation that got you to a World Series, especially these top 2 guys in Kershaw and Buehler. And this is actually one of the more lefty-heavy lineups. 3 lefties, 2 righties. Still a balance. But your 3 lefties are Kershaw, Urias, and David Price. And your 2 righties are Buehler and Dustin May. And what I love about this is that 5th starter right there. This just goes to show you believe in your players, Dustin May. This is a very, very, very good starter. This is a guy who's young. He did not play his best in the World Series, but he's so young. He's one of the younger players in all the league. For him to come into a World Series is crazy. This is a guy that throws quick, and this is a guy who has a crazy bright future. Obviously, Kershaw, future Hall of Famer. Buehler, also very young, going to have a bright future. And Dustin May also. This is not only a lineup that's currently very good, it's going to be very good in the upcoming years as well. And obviously, Kershaw, too. Kershaw's concern has never been the regular season. It's been the postseason. Regular season lineup, right here, and in the postseason. Kershaw showed in the postseason how good he really is. So, to finish it off here, my top 5 rotations are number 5, the Atlanta Braves, number 4, Washington Nationals, number 3, Cleveland Indians, number 2, San Diego Padres, and then to round it off, I got number 1, the Los Angeles Dodgers. So that's your those are your what's it called? Those are your top pitchers. Those are your top rotations there, in my opinion. So so that's it. It's gonna be exciting. I'm really excited to see what happens here. Coming up in this upcoming season. Obviously, a lot of good pitchers, a lot of good rotations, like I just said. So now I move on to college basketball. Yesterday, Kentucky won. Played very, very, very well. We won 77-74. Started off the half pretty good. Ended really, really, really well at a really solid second half. Davion Mintz had 11 points. Olivia Starr, he's been a guy that Coach Calipari has said we need to get going. He did. He had 24 points. He also had a big day at the free throw line. Went 14 to 17 at the free throw line. He had 2 blocks. Brandon Boston still struggling a little bit. He only had 6 points. He's getting better, though. He's just got to work on his shot selection. There's times where he gets the ball and just shoots. You gotta look at it good. And then Deontay Allen also had 14 points. He had a good day. He had a good game. He had 14 points. Not 23, but still very good off the bench. Lance Ware and Askew also had 11 in the starting lineup. Askew had 11, Lance Ware had 1. Askew obviously had 11 points there. He's been very good. When you work him off the ball, he's a very good player. And obviously, Sarr and Mintz led the way there. So yeah, other than that, for the AP Top 25, Kansas won, Michigan State won. Um, let's see. Mississippi State won, Texas won, Clemson won, Texas Tech won. So those are your games there. And today we got a good amount of games today. We got Virginia Tech, Louisville. I give Louisville the win. Tennessee, Arkansas, I give Tennessee the win. Houston, Wichita State, I give Houston the win. Duke, Boston College, give Duke the win. Michigan, Minnesota, give Michigan the win. Michigan's been playing very well, but give Michigan the win. Baylor, Oklahoma, give Baylor the win. Creighton, Seton Hall, give Creighton the win. And Virginia, Wake Forest, give Virginia the win. So these are your picks there. As for the NBA, the Nets yesterday won, followed by the Bulls won, Spurs won, Nuggets won, and Lakers won. Nets won yesterday, 130-96. Big day for the Nets. Huge day for the Nets. 130-96. We really dominated. Really was not expecting, especially without KD, in a very different lineup. Starting lineup yesterday, our starting lineup was Jared Allen, Kyrie Irving, Bruce Brown, Taurean Prince, and Jeff Green. Jared Allen, Bruce Brown, Green, and Prince all usually come off the bench. Kyrie's the only starter usually, but they all started yesterday. Really worked out for us. I've been wanting Allen to start. He started, played really well. 19 points, 18 rebounds. Kyrie was also with 29 points. He was a very good shooting-wise as well. So big day for both of them, and overall a big day for the Nets and a big win. So today's game, we got the Magic, Cavs. I give Magic the win. Rockets, Pacers, give Pacers the win. Pacers, Rockets, give Pacers the win. 76ers, Wizards, give 76ers the win. They've been hot so far, so yeah, give 76ers the win. Heat, Celtics, give Heat the win. Hawks, Hornets, give Hornets the win, or Hawks the win. Jazz, Knicks, I give Jazz the win. Pistons, Bucks, I give Pistons the win. Thunder, Pelicans, give Pelicans the win. Suns, Raptors, give Suns the win. Bulls, Kings, give Kings the win. And Clippers, Warriors, I give Clippers the win. By the way, the Knicks played tonight as well. Knicks have been playing hard. They've been playing some good basketball. But I give the Jazz the win there. And obviously big win for the Nets there. So that's it there for all the NBA games and stuff. So yeah, so with all that being said, that will do it for the podcast today. Hope you all enjoyed it. Obviously, another good podcast in the books. So obviously it was another good podcast. So yeah, it was another good podcast there. Obviously, hope you enjoyed the different topics. Obviously, I've been really enjoying doing the different topics. I really think it's working out good. Obviously, with no football on, and obviously with the football season winding down, we're gonna have a lot of this stuff. But obviously, like I said, Super Bowl, you still got the entire playoffs, which is really exciting. A lot of football stuff coming your way here. So, yeah, tomorrow we'll be back at it. I might do free agents on the defense side of the ball. Comment down below. I want to hear that. Comment down below if you would like me to do the defensive side of the ball for defensive side of the ball. What was I going to say? Oh, yeah. So, comment down below, defense side of the ball. What did I say? For free agents. That's what I would like you to do. So, comment down below. Comment down below. I would like to hear your opinion there. So, comment down below if you want me to do, tomorrow I'll do like the defensive side of the ball for free agents. And if you say, and if it's a good idea, and I might do it. Obviously if there's any other topics that I would like to do, if there's any other news that comes out, then I'll probably do that. But if it's something I would like to do, definitely do defense side of the ball because I'm definitely thinking about it. Oh yeah, and I got fantasy. I'm keep on forgetting to put down fantasy basketball in here, so I still got fantasy to go. Fantasy will be quick though. I'm currently winning in fantasy actually, by a good amount. Basketball. By the way, I'm not sure yet, but I might be doing my the draft for my NHL. So if that's the case, then tomorrow I'll definitely come on and talk about that. But yeah, so I'll definitely be doing that. I might be doing it tonight. I don't know. I'm not too sure. I still have to see. But I definitely have a couple people who want to do it here. So yeah. So from fantasy basketball, I'm currently winning 529 to 397. I've got obviously 529 points. I'm winning 529 to 397. Looking pretty good. 529 points right now. Leads the league for this matchup here. I got Trae Young, Bradley Beal, Jeremy Grant, Pascal Siakam, Miles Turner, Kyle Lowry, Jimmy Butler, Fred VanVleet, and Victor Oladipo playing. So good there, and looking to improve to 2-1 on the season. That's obviously the goal. So yeah. So that's what I got. For the podcast. So hopefully you all enjoyed it. Like I said, I'll be thinking about doing the defensive side of the ball for all those I'll be doing all those. I'll be thinking about doing all those. So with all that being said, that will do it for the podcast now. So tomorrow again, will just be another good day, and then obviously on Friday will be the Football Friday playoff game pick. So yeah, so with all that being said, that will do it for the podcast today. Hope you all enjoyed it. I will see you all back here tomorrow. Hope you enjoyed it, and thanks for watching.